Yeah, much to our surprise today, we found Sebastian Walcott in the clubhouse right as we were walking in. So he was gracious enough to give us some of his time. Really good interview with Sebastian. I put some of it on Twitter. We'll be seeing it here in a second. But greetings from Surprise, Arizona on this Friday. You might hear in the background a game. It's not a Rangers game, it's a college baseball game. Big one, too. Oregon State against Michigan. This is like the spring home for Oregon State, too. But as far as we're concerned, it's the spring home of the Texas Rangers. This is the DLS Rangers podcast. I'm Jeff Wilson. And yeah, since our last show on Wednesday, some things have happened. Unfortunately, to Sebastian Walcott, the top prospect who was revealed, needs surgery on his elbow. And we're going to get into that in just a second. But first, here's the nuts and bolts of it. There is a tear in the UCL. He said he's going to have surgery next week. They haven't pinned down a day yet, but it is coming. And once inside the arm, Dr. Keith Meister will determine if it's just the internal brace that Sebastian needs, or if it is the full-blown Tommy John. Of course, the Rangers right now think it's only going to be the internal brace. They don't see enough damage, I guess, in the MRIs for it to be Tommy John, but the bird's eye view is always best. If it's the internal brace, and that's, again, the best case scenario, you might be seeing Sebastian Walcott this season, all right, July or August, and that's what's keeping him going, as you'll hear in this clip.
Since it seemed like things were going in the right direction.
Yeah, so basically, had a little bit of discomfort first game of the fall league, and then told the trainer about it, and then just kind of went about it and got an MRI the next day, and they just kind of shut me down after that, and then went to Arlington to get an next MRI and got checked up on Meister, and he kind of said it was a strain. So basically for about a few weeks we're just resting, wasn't doing no hitting and throwing, and we thought that eventually over time the ligament will heal, and also it didn't. So now it's kind of progressively not kind of better, so we got to get surgery now. But it's really unfortunate that I had to get to this point, hoping that I would come back healthy, ready to play for 2026 and stuff.
Yeah, he thinks, if it is the surgery, and Meister has done so many of these brace procedures. He did Trevor Story, the Red Sox shortstop, who's from Irving, and did him a couple years ago. It was in January, and Story was back by August. So I think that's kind of what Sebastian is clinging to. But the Rangers, I heard one club official say July or August. It looks like, however it works out, there will be some fall league action or some winter league action for Sebastian. So it's not going to be a complete loss. I think that it'll definitely put a dent, I think, in his progress to the major leagues. But he's going to be able to hit this year, assuming it is the brace surgery. Now, if it's not, obviously the full year, and we'll have to circle the wagons again to figure out what it's going to look like. But no Sebastian Walcott, which kind of stinks. As you guys remember, and I'm sure you do because it's seared in my memory, he was actually on our weekly show that I do with John Moore early in the fall league season, and then like the next day, the Rangers announced that he was being shut down, and they called it arm fatigue. They said it was precautionary and give him some rest, and there was even some speculation that he'd be able to hit only throughout the fall league, but that wasn't the case. And at no point did the Rangers say there's an elbow issue, and so I think we were all surprised today or yesterday when we got the news. I had spoken to Sebastian just Wednesday and said, "Hey man, how's everything going with your arm? What's going on?" And he said, "Everything's good. I think I'll be okay." Little did we know that he had either just had some imaging or was about to get it, and then the bad news came to us Thursday morning. Unfortunate for sure. There's no question about it. But I know a couple things to keep in perspective. One, Sebastian right now is 19 years old, right? 19 years old. turns 20 on March 24th. As the Rangers were saying and trying to explain to him, this is a blip on the radar, a small blip. I guess you can have big blips. This one apparently they're thinking is a small blip. They're saying we don't think any differently of him, and so they tried to reassure him that way. Both Chris Young, who had a lot of surgeries, I guess, or at least a few, and Skip Schumacher, who've seen guys go through it. It's it's refreshing to see that this 19-year-old kid, who I've interviewed multiple times, I think that was probably the best interview we've had with him, and that he's had. He's usually kind of to the point, and just says a few sentences, and sometimes will repeat what you say. But that one he nailed, and was offering fresh information, and it just kind of shows you what the Rangers thought, that this is a guy who is a terrific player, but he's also so well composed for 19. Skip Schumacher compared him to Fernando Tatis Jr., both at a talent perspective and also from a just a maturity aspect when Skip was around him with the Padres. So it's pretty impressive to hear that comparison and then to see it firsthand. I think the other thing to keep into perspective is that Sebastian Walcott was not expected to contribute anytime soon in the major leagues. I know some people might have projected late in the year, especially if there was a significant injury to, let's say, Corey Seager or somewhere where you could stick Sebastian, but he wasn't like in the plans. This isn't like the Rangers just lost Corey Seager for 6 months. They lost a great prospect, no question about it, and maybe the future Corey Seager, but this doesn't scuttle the Rangers' big league plans, immediate big league plans. They're position players who report, well, they don't report anymore. They just show up and work out. On Sunday, they're all healthy. So that's another positive here. It's something to keep in perspective. So I think the combination of the age and maturity that Sebastian has, not to mention the fact that, again, he's got a very good chance to get at bats this year during the regular season. I think that's important. And then again, he was not a part of the Rangers' plans. Now, everybody wanted to see him play this spring. Skip Schumacher said that. He said, "Hey, I'm not going to lie. I wanted to see him play." He's still going to get time around Corey Seager, and actually that could be a benefit because Corey Seager had Tommy John surgery in 2018 and missed that whole season, but came back in 19 and was fine. Sebastian, after the surgery, he's going to get checked out the next day or two by Meister, and then boom, he's going to hop on the plane. He said the same day and get back to Arizona. Just he's going to be walking around in an elbow brace for a while, but he's doing the best with it he can. He took some ground balls a day, didn't throw anything, obviously, but this is a guy who just has it. I think it's not just the physical stuff; it's the stuff between the ears. I think you have to learn a little bit about that. I think, when you're 16 and 17 and you're hearing all these things that people are saying about you, and you're checking out social media and seeing how great you are, I think, if you get humbled by the game, it kind of puts things in perspective. And that might have happened not last year, but in 24 when he opened up at high A and was so cold to start the season. But really, if you go starting in like mid-May of that year, terrific season. If you look at his numbers from last season and at Frisco, the full season, you're kind of like, those aren't terrific numbers, but they were above league average, and they were above league average for a guy in his age 19 season. Okay, I think he was the youngest guy in that league. So keep that in perspective too. It's all about perspective with Walcott, and eventually it's gonna be all right. It's time for him to go, but I would suspect. If I'm planning here, if I'm putting out the long-term plan for this year, if he is able to come back in let's say middle August, he would obviously rehab here in Arizona, spend a lot of time here, building up the arm strength. No throwing, just going through the strengthening of the muscle situation, and then he'll be allowed to start swinging. That would be a slow progression, a slow build up. And then, the complex league will be in swing, and he can get at bats there. He can begin his rehab assignment here, maybe move up. Maybe he goes to A-ball for a week, but I think he'll eventually end up back at Frisco, and maybe that's where he spends the whole season. Okay, That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Maybe, he gets to AAA just to hit, and if he does, that'd be valuable stuff. And then there is the fall league, which, hello, the Rangers affiliation is with the surprise team. They use the Rangers facility, the Saguaros do. Rangers rehab coaches will be here. So it'd be a perfect opportunity for Sebastian to continue to gather at bats and then, maybe start on a throwing program by the end of that season and then be ready for spring training. I think this, eliminates him from being on the opening day roster in 27. But maybe at some point then in 27, he's able to come in and show what he can do. Um, so while there was initial shock, and believe me, when Chris Young told us the news, I couldn't believe it, and I like kind of blocked out what Chris Young was saying because my first question, he didn't scold me, but he was like, well, when I was talking about this, that's what I just answered your question. I was like, Chris, I swear, I never heard you say that. I think I was in shock. And he's like, well, we're in shock too. Ross Fenstermaker, who helped sign Jurickson out of the Bahamas and might be Jurickson's number one fan. It was a tough one for him, but I think the whole organization feels better about things because the way Sebastian handled it and is handling it. Just a maturity beyond his years, optimistic outlook, and again, this guy is not closing the door on playing this year. In fact, he sees it as wide open, just delayed significantly. But I think you would. I think that we will see Sebastian Walcott play at some point in 2026, and but we won't know for sure until next week when Keith Meiser, who's the best in the business, along with the Dr. Neil Elatrache or Elatrache there in LA. They're 1 and 1A or 1A and 1B, and pretty much do everybody's Tommy John at this point. I think when Keith gets in there and examines the muscle or the ligament and sees what is all needed, ultimately it's going to be a internal brace, and that could, that's probably that is the best case scenario for Sebastian and the Rangers. In the meantime, how does that affect big league camp? Not very much. I think it'll allow for more opportunities for guys who are in camp on minor league deals. We have multiple infielders who are already here working out. Michael Hellman today was taking ground balls at shortstop. I know he's in the hunt for the second base job, but he can play shortstop as well. And just Velasquez and Martin Jr. and Jonah Bride, maybe guys like that. Cody Freeman could probably get some game time at shortstop, which would help him in his quest to make this roster. Because if you're going to be a backup infielder in the major leagues and be on the bench, you've got to be able to play shortstop to some, even if it's just for a game or two that you're needed. The team needs to feel comfortable that you're not going to kill him. As far as Corey Seager is concerned, doesn't affect him at all. I hope, though, that he does take the time to talk to Walcott about what to expect during the situation with the Tommy John and the rehab and when to start throwing and what it feels like. You can say what you want about Corey Seager's defense. I mean, he's been a Gold Glove finalist twice in the last 3 years, so he's doing something right. Maybe it's just swallowing up every ball that is hit to him and making great throws. But Michael Young told me this a couple of years ago. If there was one guy in the Rangers infield who absolutely positively had to make a throw to first base, he would want it to be Corey Seager. And so that, coming from Michael Young, I think that means a lot. So yeah, it's bad news with Sebastian Walcott, but I think when you peel back the layers of the onion and take a deep breath, I don't think it's the worst thing that's ever happened to this organization. All right, coming up, we're going to talk about Jordan Montgomery, who we just spoke to. The beat writers did. His deal is now official. He is on the 40-man roster. Not sure for how long, but he is. And we will talk about what he had to say coming up right after this. Oh, man, let me tell you about Wild Fork Meat and Seafood Market at wildforkfoods.com, 9 DFW locations. If you need meat, this is the place to go. All right, find one of the locations, go to the website, and you will find some of the cheapest prices on meat anywhere in the Metroplex. In fact, every week they hold a marketing meeting. They scan the prices of meats across other places, whether it be, Kroger, Tom Thumb, HEB, and they try to match or beat the lowest price. You're not going to find a better selection of meat because there are so many different cuts and kinds of meat. Again, kangaroo is available. You just can't beat Wild Fork Foods. The people there, so super nice. They can help you with anything. You can become a member for $29 a year and get free delivery. That's Wild Fork Foods Meat and Seafood Market. And then this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. My friends at Prize Picks, prizepicks.com. If you make a $5 lineup, your first $5 lineup, you'll get $50 in free lineups. What's a lineup, you ask? It's 2 to 6 players. You choose whether they're going to have more or less in their particular statistical category. You can bet as little as $1, and voila, you're set. You're in the action. It heightens the sports experience, and if you're decent enough, you might add a little money, a little spending money. You know, it is a Valentine's Day coming up. Every little bit helps in that case. But Prize Picks daily fantasy. You know, I'm going to take a little time off because the NBA is off. I don't want to bet on that or I don't want to have anything to do with that All-Star game. But once it resumes, Prize Picks, prizepicks.com/DLLS. And we're back here with a little segue, a little transition to the other big news since of camp this week. We touched on it a little bit on Wednesday, and that's the return of Jordan Montgomery. He's a left-handed pitcher who we all remember acquired at the trade deadline in 2023 from the Cardinals, and boy, was he good. You know, going down the stretch for the Rangers that year. He was 4-2 with a 2.79 ERA and 11 starts. Then he goes into the postseason, opens game one of the playoffs in the wild card series against the Rays. He makes that diving catch that really might have been the foreshadowing of good things to come for the Rangers. Pitched his tail off against the Astros, and forever has a place in Rangers lore and fans' memories for all the great things he did as they won the World Series. Interestingly, that he never wanted to leave. That's one thing he made perfectly clear today. He wanted to stay, coming off the World Series and the memories and the people he knew, wanted to keep it going. But his free agency worked out. He was one of the Boris Four. It was a nightmare. Ended up signing that 2-year deal with the Diamondbacks and immediately fired Scott Boras. So that tells you what Jordan thought about his experience. He's so glad to be back, though, and that's something that he talked about probably less than an hour ago with the media, and I think I got the right clip for Cat to show you.
Reasons. Obviously, I love it here. Evo, Jake, Jungle Cat, just the culture, knowing how comfortable I would be here. The memories, having Higgy here was a huge plus. Being so comfortable with him with our 8 years together in New York. Skip, our time together in St. Louis, it was just like every arrow was pointing to Texas. Been missing it a little bit, you always miss it. So I'm just couldn't be more excited to be back.
Jordan is on cloud 9 right now. His wife just had a baby on January 14th, a little boy named James. So he's a pretty cute kid there. He had to show us the pictures. He's a proud papa, but he's proud to be back with the Rangers for all the reasons he just talked about. I see you, Steve Cook. Thanks for the $1.99. If you got a question, type it in super chat question. Type it in here in the chat. We'll get to it. The best thing about Jordan was his mood. He can't do anything right now, at least from a mound perspective. He looks great, and he admitted when he was with the Rangers he weighed 260 pounds. and he said that's a little too much. He's down at around 235 right now. He hasn't lost at all here in this last few weeks leading up to the the signing with the Rangers, but he's been working with a nutritionist. And again, these guys, they all talk about it. They don't have anything else to do, so they get in really, really good shape. And Jordan looks great. And I think the other underestimated thing that I'd kind of forgotten about, if I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, is Kyle and Gashioka. You know, all the relationship that dates to high A with the Yankees. And you know, Higgy is now in the second year of the 2-year contract with the Rangers. He's going to be sharing catching duties with Danny Jansen. So I think that's something to keep in mind. And I wouldn't be surprised if whenever it is that Jordan's able to pitch, that he has a personal catcher there in Kyle Gashioka. As for the timeline, Jordan said he finished up another step into rehab today. He's going to take 5 days off, 5 days off, kind of a deload. Then he's going to throw it 120 feet again, maybe for a week or two. And then he will get off the half mound, which, what's a half mound? Well, it's half the height of a normal mound. It simulates coming down off a slope. You'll do that for a period. Then you'll start with bullpens. Now, he's not on the same schedule as Cody Bradford, even though he had the schedule, his surgery. He had his surgery 3 months before Cody Bradford, but Cody Bradford had the internal brace surgery. Plus, this is Jordan's second Tommy John, so there's a little extra caution paid there. But Jordan said that everything's looking like just right around the All-Star break, maybe a little bit before, maybe a little bit after. I always just experience has told me that they always add a week or so on top of whatever the initial projection is. But the Rangers expect him to contribute. And at $1.25 million for 1 year, I know there's incentives in there, but it could be an absolute gold mine for them. And again, you know, pitchers get hurt. Okay, the last Rangers team that I remember, the only one I remember where their starter did not go on the injured list, was in 2011, the World Series team. Nobody went on the injured list that year. None of the 5 starters went on the IL. I think they made all but 2 starts. I think Dave Bush actually had to make one of those starts for Matt Harrison as he was dealing with a kidney stone. We were on the road. It was in St. Louis, and I remember the next day. It's always funny to talk to the guys once it passes because they know immediately. And you know, not to be graphic, but you pee it out. And as soon as it finds its way to freedom, the player feels 100% better. So anyway, what will Jordan be able to do? Well, he thinks the weight loss is going to help. He also thinks, and this is something a theory that Meiser had thrown his way, is that Jordan had been hurt a while. And Jordan said that he took tests in 2024 with the Diamondbacks, strength tests, and all the tests they do for elbow injuries, and he passed every one of them. But once Meiser got in there, you know, they're unlike with Sebastian, where you know it could be the internal brace or it could be Tommy John. It was absolutely Tommy John for Jordan, and so he's on his way back. And but again, just you know, he had been a quiet guy when he came over and hadn't talked a ton. I think, and Kennedy Landry said this. She thinks, and I kind of agree, that he said more in this, you know, 10-minute interview with us than he said the entire time he was with the Rangers in 2023. So, hey, mental health, man, it's a real thing. And, you know, being around the guys you like, he said he called Evo, who he has received Evo's counsel throughout this procedure because Eovaldi, like Jacob deGrom, they've both had Tommy John twice. Said he called Kyle Higashioka and then Corey Seager, and everybody was fired up for that. So, yeah, you're kind of putting the band back together, I guess, from 2023, or at least, you know, adding somebody who can step in late in the year. But, you know, the Rangers are going to need him. That's just, you know, that's just baseball. And if they don't need him, maybe he pushes somebody to the bullpen, or maybe, you know, somebody else becomes like a quasi 6 starter to save bullets down the stretch. And again, if the Rangers think they're going to be a playoff team or know they're going to be a playoff team at some point in September, then they can really start to build in rest for guys who they know they're going to need. And Jordan may very well be one of them. So we'll see how this all plays out, but kind of a fun time. Again, he was thrilled to see us. I can't I can't get over the difference from his very first couple interviews that I remember to this one. So that's exciting. Um, uh, Also on the medical front today, Cody Bradford was back on the mound throwing a bullpen session. He's continuing his progress through changeups again today. Looking good. And suddenly, you kind of look at the overall rotation. The Rangers are pretty left-handed now. They're going to start the season maybe with two. If you talk about Jacob Lass, he could be a second left-hander with Mackenzie Gore. And then when Bradford is able to pitch in the rotation, well, there's another left-hander, and then there's Jordan Montgomery. So why is that a big deal? Well, you again, and we've talked about this, we've highlighted this. You talk about this division and the left-handed hitters that are in it. Um, just go down to Houston. Who's their best hitter? Yordan Alvarez. He's a left-handed bat. You go down to Seattle, up to Seattle, out to Seattle, wherever you go to Seattle. You want to turn around Cal Raleigh. You want him batting right-handed. You want a left-hander against Josh Naylor. J.P. Crawford will sneak up and bite you in the butt every once in a while. They just got Brendan Donovan, a left-handed hitter. So that's key. And then the A's, some of their young studs. Soderstrom, Kurtz, the reigning Rookie of the Year, Lawrence Butler, all left-handed hitters. So the Rangers might have some weapons there. Not sure about the Angels. Do they even feel in the lineup? I just remember a lot of right-handed hitters, other than Schoenwell, their first baseman. So there's some strategy, I think, involved here. Good stuff from Jordan today. Potentially good stuff in July or August, whenever he is able to come back. And we're going to get a good look at the rotation here in a little bit, or all the pitchers really, from Jordan Tiegs, who's going to join the show. The pitching coach, the new pitching coach, he's going to join the show here in about 5 minutos. Other things that happened today at camp. I saw Robert Garcia throw the first live batting practice rather of Rangers camp. He is pitching for Team Mexico, so he's ahead of schedule. So he went ahead and threw today. We've got some more live BPs coming up this week. And then more position players are showing up. Jake Berger has arrived. The first full squad workout is Sunday. Players will probably all be in tomorrow. Yeah, really. Maybe a few of them straggle and don't show up until Sunday. But by my count, there are 16 of the 27 position players already here. And 21 if you include the catchers who are on the camp roster. So the 6 who are not here, since you're all wondering, I know it. Ezekiel Duran, Justin Foscue, Corey Seager, Josh Smith, Wyatt Langford, and Brandon Nimmo. Nimmo and Seager, the more veteran guys in that group. So I think they're allowed I don't think anybody's going to hold it against them, and they shouldn't hold it against any of these guys. But they are all about to be here. One more day of just pitchers and catchers tomorrow, and then those first full squad practice is Friday. Is Sunday, and then you're only 5 days away from games at that point. The first Cactus League game is next Friday, a week from today, against the Royals, and that will end my first trip here. And then I'll be coming back a week later as John Moore joins me from the weekly show, and then I will make my way back to camp at some point at the end, so I can get all the news. And of course, the news never seems to always be delivered. They always straggle and wait, but most of the roster spots will be settled that last week camp. All right, coming up after this, it'll be Jordan Tiegs, the pitching coach. But first, we got to talk about some things happening at DLLS. All right, first up, as always, the Supporters Club. There you see it, true sicko level stuff. I equate it to being a diehard for our YouTube channel. Our YouTube channel, of course, is youtube.com/@DLLS_sports. Go there, and there's a little join button. Boom, push it. Takes you through the process. what it does, it gives you members only videos from each beat, not just from the Rangers beat, but the Cowboys. They're the football team, right? Then the Mavs, then the Stars, and yeah, then the Rangers. We'll try to figure one out here maybe next week. Rarities gave me a link to go out and get a handheld device thing that I can walk around with my camera and all that stuff. Um, I don't know if I want to spend as much money, Rarities, as you sent that link, but maybe I can find one a little bit cheaper. But anyway, check it out, please. Plus, you get the emojis that you guys all like to flex, and the badge that shows that you guys are members of the supporters club. So do that today. Also, help us out. Buy some merch. Store.allcitynetwork.com. So you can see I am wearing the flag hat of ours, one of the two flag hats. It's a branded Bills combination. What do they call that? Collab. And so we're hanging out with them. We have 5 hats, more than 50 T-shirts. We have sweatshirts and flags, beer pint glass things, coffee cups. We have college shirts. So it's quite an array of things, and it's very nice. And as one of the listeners to our podcast pointed out today, the shipping's not all that much either at store.allcitynetwork.com. So come on, let's do it. Let's find a unique way to show our fandom and to really help out the crew. Also to help yourself. These are nice shirts, and the sweatshirts are fantastic. And the hats, of course, as a daily hat wearer, I can't recommend them enough at store.allcitynetwork.com. All right, guys. And look who's dialing in. It's Jordan Tiegs, everybody, the Rangers pitching coach, proud Canadian, but makes his home here in Arizona. Jordan, how the heck are we doing today?
Hey, Jeff. Doing all right. Can't complain. It's spring's off and running, and feel like we're hitting the ground running right now. Everyone seems like they're in a good spot, so can't complain.
All right. We talked to Jordan Montgomery, the other Jordan, about an hour ago. He, I guess with all this Tommy John stuff, it's always fluid with his program. But what's his plan in your minds for the next, I guess, I don't know, the next 4 months?
Yeah, we were just talking with him this morning a little bit, and talking with our medical staff and our rehab staff, just trying to get up to speed on where Jordan's at in his recovery and timeline as he builds towards game competition. He's going to have a deload week coming up next week, which is perfect timing to hop in, and then from there progress into some mound work and start his mound progression, which is obviously an exciting time when you start coming back from those things. So that's about where he's at right now, but he's feeling good. He threw today, and he seems excited to get back out there.
I think everybody who's healthy has thrown at least one bullpen session so far this camp. So it's pretty early, and maybe it's too early to ask if anybody has caught your eyes, but you've seen them all, Jordan. Has anybody caught your eye?
Yeah, I mean, there's some competition for some different spots that we have going on right now, and so you're trying to keep a close eye on those guys and see where they're at, as well as obviously the ones that are locks on the team, and make sure they're where you think they should be right now, and they're not compensating or doing anything abnormally. But a lot of the returners have come back in a very good spot, kind of picked up where they left off last year. So it tells me that there's maybe a sense of urgency or a sense of displeasure from how last season went overall for us. So that was really encouraging to see. We got the Baumler kid from the Rule 5 pick. He's really interesting, has a big arsenal, and see how that goes through camp. We got some older guys as well here. Frazier's here, some familiar faces with Spores, and Alexis Diaz is new. So and Otanez has big stuff. So there's some exciting pieces in that competition for that bullpen spot.
Yeah. In fact, somebody in our chat wanted to ask about Diaz, and I know we talked to Chris Young yesterday, and Diaz threw his bullpen on Wednesday, and apparently it was really encouraging, and people talked about it. How is he in kind of tweaking those mechanics and trying to A, harness his fastball, and B, get that velocity back?
Yeah, we talked to him back in December right after he signed with us, and he threw a bullpen because he's coming off a winter ball, and he went to work, the months of December and January, and trying to make some changes, get back to closer to how he was moving, in his All-Star seasons. And to his credit, he's definitely made some improvements. I think there's still some progress to be made, but definitely pleased with where he's at right now. I think hopefully it leads to better command and the better velo that we've seen in the past. So encouraged by where he's at, still have some work to do and ways to go. And obviously we haven't thrown in a game yet. So I don't know how that changes for a lot of pitchers, but in terms of what he can show us at this point, he's showing us exactly what we'd hope to see.
Garcia threw live today, and I didn't watch it because we were kind of in a holding period on when we would talk to Jordan. How did it look? And then how do you think last year helped him? He had some bumps in the road as the closer, but right now, as Skip said the other day, he's looking like one of the two guys early on, at least, to get some save chances.
Yeah, and Robert's a notorious worker. Off season, he was up here at the complex. I think even when the complex closed, he had got his own key to the building so he could come in and work as needed. So all the credit to him on what he's put in this offseason. And to your point, I think last year was good for him in a sense that he had never been thrown into those type of leverage innings on a consistent basis like he was. And then obviously he moved into the closer's role and got punched in the face once or twice, but then responded on how he finished the season so well down the stretch. So learned to take on some adversity, handle it, and then ultimately overcome it. And I think that sets him up going into this year in a really good spot. Physically, he's good, probably a tick ahead of where he was last year, maybe a little bit of motivation for the WBC, but I know he's a very serious and committed person to his craft. So he knows a couple areas he wanted to be better at, and he's put in the time on those. In terms of live BP today, thought we saw exactly what we needed to see just in terms of him going out, getting the first one under his belt, showing some carryover from his sides, work on the breaking ball a little bit more than you probably typically see if this was a real game, but opportunity to get a feel for that against hitters. So all in all, he's in a good spot.
Yeah, and there's some talk about the fifth starter competition here in the chat. We've made a big deal about what Kamar went through last year. After the changes and everything, what have you seen from him here early on?
Yeah, and I wouldn't even stress there was so much changes. It was just last year. I think that he probably would tell you he wasn't where he needed to be on the physical side of things coming into spring training, both just from the throwing and delivery standpoint. And he was playing catch up for all of spring and all of the first half of the season, and doing his best to just survive and do what he could. Now he took that to heart, and he went into this year and had a tremendous offseason, in my opinion. He's much further along. He's in great physical shape, great throwing shape. He already has a live BP under his belt. He's recovering better. Pitch shapes are in better spots. So he's doing the right things in his control right now to put himself in the position where once we see some hitters, now we can make some adjustments as we go. Not necessarily having to play catch up on things that you should be worrying about in the off season. Now you're worrying about in spring training. He's put himself in the right spots where we can make some adjustments as we go here.
Yeah, I thought his bullpen was good yesterday. I thought Jake, who was pitching right next to him, which hey, that's kind of fun. I think Jacob looked great last year, and it feels like he still hasn't reached his ceiling. It feels like there's more there.
Yeah, I mean, Latzi, we think, to your point, took a good step forward last year, especially in terms of performance and results. But there's still things that he can do better and will do better. And he's improved a couple of his pitches already this offseason and coming into camp. I'm excited to see them against a hitter. But I do believe there's another step for him to take. And he's continues to just grow and mature and get better. So maybe he's a late bloomer, but definitely excited whatever role he ends up in. He's going to be pretty good.
Yeah, and I don't want to sleep on Cal Quantrill, who I keep thinking, first thing I think of is Paul, who you probably remember growing up.
Oh
But
yeah.
how has Cal been? I know he's probably a little bit ahead too because he's going to pitch for Canada.
No, you want a bias answer because he's a fellow Canadian, or
I want the truth, baby.
no? Cal's great. You know, he showed up day one with a Leafs hat on, so that got us off on the right foot. Um, but yeah, definitely see a guy that, you know, has obviously put in a lot of quality major league innings in his career, a guy that's been through it. The best thing about Cal, though, is he knows who he is and he knows what he needs in order to get back to that level and become, you know, a guy that can take the ball 30, 35 times a year and produce, you know, a sub 4 ERA, which I do believe he's capable of doing again. And, you know, we right away hit it off on exactly, hey, man, this is where I see a need for you. And he's like, couldn't agree more. You know, we tried to tweak a couple things just to see if how quick he would take to it, and encouraging so far. So we'll see when Hinge get in there. I know we'll get a short look at him here before he takes off for the WBC, but he's been very encouraging to this point so far.
Yeah, we all know that you've been in the organization for a while. You know all the young guys like Jack and Kamar, and you can Cole Winn. We can name him. How is the interaction, or what's different in working with a guy like DeGrom or Evaldi?
I think in the beginning, you know, and fortunately I was around him a lot last year and got to know him a little bit the year before that, but being able to just, you know what makes them tick, know how they think about things, know what their kind of process and mindset is when it comes to pitching, how they like to look at hitters, attack hitters, mechanical things, just the ability to somewhat sit back and just take that all in and get a better understanding for who they are. And I think that's a big help because, you know, with those guys, they have the pedigrees, they've been successful. Your job isn't to come in and put your stamp on them. Your job is to, okay, what can I do to keep you going? What can I do to, you know, help you continue to pitch at this level and hopefully maybe even take another step forward in some ways. But again, and with those types of guys in the beginning, you have to be the one asking questions, not necessarily giving the orders. And then as you build that trust and relationship, you'll see them start to ask you some things. And then from there, it's like, you know, you weigh in on where you think they can still be better. And those are the two things about those guys. Like, those guys want to be better. You know, Jake's not satisfied. He had a great season last year. He's hungrier to be better. Nate wants to prove that he can be the guy that takes the ball for, you know, 180, 200 innings again and produce like he did the last few years. So when you have those types of mindsets and competitors with that talent leading your staff, like, you're in a good spot.
Yeah, I thought Nate yesterday was really interesting because he was throwing on flat ground before the bullpen and like just was not happy. You could tell he wasn't happy, and he had like an extended flat ground and came over late and just still wasn't happy. I thought that's kind of what you're talking about. Here's this guy who's great, but even his second bullpen of camp, he's striving to be better.
I think if Nate told me that he was really pleased with a bullpen or a throwing program, I might faint. So that's typical Nate. But to your point, like, you know, he's chasing perfection. He knows he's not going to be perfect, but he demands excellence out of himself, and he has a standard, and he knows what feels right, what feels wrong. And so what someone might deem as a quality bullpen or quality throwing session, you know, he's going to find things that he's not happy about, and he wants to go and be better next time out. And that's just him. We joked about in the morning meeting today, you know, Nate threw 26 pitches, and how many baseballs did he use to get through his bullpen? He used one. So
that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Two more questions if you have the time.
Of course.
What influence, and you know I've talked about it, but some of the guys in the chat are asking, what influence did Mike Maddox have on you, and how will you carry that forward this season?
Yeah, I mean, it's priceless what he did for me and laid the foundation here. You know, when he came back, we were in a situation where, you know, we needed to get the train on the tracks, and he did that for this org. You know, he built a good foundation here for us to just continue to follow and push forward and look for opportunities where we continue to build off of, you know, what he helped put in place here. But yeah, just from like the mental standpoint of like being able to see how he handled situations during the spring or during the season that came up, how he psychologically handled different players and their emotions, and where his mind was at in different moments, and especially how he reacts to wins and losses and bad performances, good performance, just all the things that all of the experience he has, that if I'm able to have half of that by the end of this, like, I'd be extremely fortunate and lucky. So I still call him up now and pick his brain. I told him, I called him last week, we talked for a minute, and here I am stressing over every little detail as I go into the first one here, and Mike's over there at his buddy's house dove hunting. I'm like, I can't wait to be in that position someday, hopefully.
Yeah, no, that's Mike. We've come to learn that over the years. Hey, the last question, and this isn't about a big leaguer, but somebody who you have familiarity with, Brock Porter. Just wondering if you have any thoughts on Brock and where he's at and how he's doing.
Yeah, I saw him in January camp. He's out in Arizona. Looked in great physical shape. He watched him throw bullpen, watched him play catch a few days. With Brock, we'll see when the hitter steps in, and hopefully he can build off of the steps he took last year. But what we saw in January, tells me he's put in some work this offseason, and hopeful that that'll translate for him. I mean, great kid. I know he wants to be good, and he has all the talent to make it happen. So hopefully this is another big step forward for him this year.
Okay. Jordan, thank you for taking the time. I'm doing this show solo now, so anytime I can get somebody on, it helps take a load off of my shoulders, but also great insight, and can't thank you enough. I'll see you tomorrow.
All right, Jeff. Well, hopefully you get someone that's not as monotone dry as me, but happy to be on anytime. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jordan. All right, guys, that's Jordan Tiegs, the pitching coach, who I've known for a while. Fantastic guy. He lives in the area, so he's got a short drive home, and can get some rest those vocal cords for tomorrow. All right, guys, we got one more ad break, and then we're going to do some batting cleanup. All right, it's Die Hard time. If you guys haven't done it yet, I don't know what you're waiting for. There's the QR code. You can go to alldls.com/join, and our alldls.com/intro might even be a sweeter deal. Regular price is $79.99. It's $6.50 a month. You get 20% off of the merch that we talked about, 20% off of our events that we've had. But more importantly, you get access to everything that is written at DLLS. Some of the stuff is not for diehards, like the Sebastian Walcott breaking news I left free yesterday. But I think that was my 5th story I've written here. I've got 2 on the docket still to write today. Our schedule was all wonky, so look for those. For those of you who are diehards, look, follow me on Twitter. I tweet them out whether they're free or not every day, and it's just good stuff. Not just me. I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about Clarence. I'm talking about Sam. I'm talking about Ron. Insight. We are the only outlet, DLLS, in the Metroplex that has dedicated beat writers to each of the 4 major professional teams. We have podcasts, which are free, as you guys know, each and every day. For most of the shows, we're 3 days a week in the temporary situation right now that we're in. But being a diehard, it makes you smarter. It makes you know more than your friend about sports, all of your friends. And you're part of the cool kids club when you're a member, when you're a DLS diehard. So again, hit that QR code, go to alldls.com/join or /intro, see if that works first, because we're trying to help you out here. You get the free shirt, you get all the discounts. Do that today at DLS Sports. All right, it is time to bat cleanup. I'm going to make sure I didn't miss anything from the camp rundown. I didn't. Jordan, boy, what a help he has. As always in batting cleanup, we like to start with our old friends. And Nathaniel Lowe, who's not all that old, has signed a minor league deal with the Reds, who have camp 20 minutes south of here in Goodyear. I don't want to say what a fall for this guy, because he's still a capable major league hitter. I thought he did really well after getting picked up by the Red Sox following his DFA from the Nats last year. Made $11 million last year. He's not hurting, but the pride might be hurting. You might be seeing a motivated Nathaniel Lowe. Could probably help these Reds out. a guy, he's a veteran now. He's won a World Series. He's been in these big situations before. That's where the Reds hope to get. So maybe Nathaniel Lowe can find a roster spot to open the season with the Reds. Certainly hope so. We always like Nate and enjoyed his time and with the club. And I'll never forget when after Game 4 of the World Series in 2023, boy, the Rangers can clinch the next night. I said, Nate, what are you going to do to get ready for tomorrow night? And he said, hydrate. So he was ready to A, clinch the series, and B, start drinking all that cheap champagne that they pour on each other. Elsewhere, I guess, the big signee of the last couple days was Chris Bassett, the right-hander who pitched last year for the Blue Jays. He signed with the Orioles for 1 year, $18.5 million. There's why the Rangers didn't sign him. That leaves Zach Gallen, who was probably the best free agent still available. He's still out there. Still waiting to see what happens with him. Nick Castellanos is going to be a free agent soon enough, or maybe he already is. I don't know how the release stuff works, but he's been released by the Phillies. John Heyman, our friend, I like John a lot. He used to subscribe to my website. He said that the Rangers are a fit, and I guess technically they are a fit. He's a right-handed hitting outfielder, has done some things in the past, but I don't know about that one. And I think his admission that he brought beer into the dugout last year during a game probably wouldn't go over very well with Chris Young. But you never know. You never know. He can sign for the league minimum because he's going to make $20 million this year from the Phillies or something like that. A little closer to home. The Astros, they have reacquired outfield Joey Loperfido, I believe is how you pronounce it. He was one of their top prospects. They traded him, or they got him back from the Blue Jays for Jesus Sanchez. It saves the Astros like $6 million. And then Dana Brown, their GM, is saying that they're not done making any moves. The Loperfido trade, he was in the Yusei Kikuchi trade. In 24. Anyway, that's interesting that they brought him back and that the Blue Jays are willing to give him up. It doesn't really seem like a Blue Jays type move, but then again, they're out spending money this year. Kike Hernandez, back to the Dodgers, another 1 year deal. All this guy does is win World Series. So he went back for a shot. He's already telling fans on the Twitter machine that let's go for a three-peat. All right. I like their chances. Elsewhere, the Dodgers, they share a camp with the White Sox. And boy, did the White Sox GM make a fool of himself here recently. Chris Getz, who's had a really good offseason on the acquisition front. Some of the guys they've gotten. Well, one of those guys is ex-Rangers prospect Luis Angel Acuna, Ronald's little brother, who was sent to the Mets in the Max Scherzer trade back there in 23. Anyway, Getz has been calling Acuna a switch hitter. He did it multiple times this offseason. Apparently, he did it 4 times the other day in a press conference. It was pointed out to him, hey, not a switch hitter. So he issued an apology. He said, even though you're not a switch hitter, we still love you. And they should. He's fast. He's got a little power in the bat. He can play a lot of positions. And he's got that Acuna blood in him. A couple stories that came out on Thursday, and really Wednesday and Thursday, even Ken Rosenthal got into the mix. But the two I'm talking about are Jeff Passan and Evan Drellich, ESPN and The Athletic, who wrote stories about the upcoming labor disputes. It sounds like it's inevitable. Passan has a quote saying that owners are ready to burn the whole thing down to get their salary cap. Evan Drellich is saying that you're not going to have a salary floor without a salary cap. Both very good stories, pretty detailed. Ken Rosenthal has mixed in ways to avoid a lockout and things like that. But by God, it doesn't look good. Maybe this is just the doom and gloom coming. Hopefully by December 1, everybody will at least be a lot closer. I think the thing that a salary cap would do most to the players is there wouldn't be as much guaranteed money, and that's been their hallmark here. Guys get paid. Nick Castellanos is getting paid. I'm not sure that would happen with the salary cap. So we'll keep our fingers crossed and hope that the worst case scenario doesn't unfold. But um, everything's pretty pessimistic right now, and I don't like pessimism. Um, so there you go. Let me take a look at see what questions you guys have left. Um, which pitchers do you think will challenge pitch calls now with the new ABS challenge system? I'm glad you brought that up, Rarities, because um, kind of a tweak to the rule is extra innings. Every team gets one for every inning that they play. Whether they're right or wrong in the 10th inning, they're going to get one back for the 11th. So that's interesting. And I tell you what, the Rangers, you're going to have to be careful about this. There's going to have to be a strategy about when to use the ABS, when to challenge. And I think there are going to be guys who, you probably don't want challenging. Okay. I think Wyatt Langford's going to benefit the most. I think everybody has pretty much said that. But as far as pitchers go, I'm not sure because the Rangers throw a ton of strikes. They're always around the plate. I think it honestly, I think it may be detrimental to them because they're around the plate so much before this system that they can probably move the ball a little bit further outside and still get the strike call. I don't know if that's going to happen anymore. I think DeGrom is a guy who will probably use it, but I think ultimately the catcher is going to be the one who decides when to challenge and when not to challenge. I think you'll see it. I don't think you'll see a pitcher out there hitting his head and going crazy. I think what you're going to see is the catcher just say, "Hey, let's challenge that one." And so I would look to that. But there's the one situation last year with DeGrom and that start at Detroit where there were two missed pitches by Andy Fletcher, who's terrible, in the same at bat. And DeGrom was pretty ticked about that. And that just shows you, his stuff is so good. And these umpires, some of them aren't very good that they miss them. And so I think DeGrom. I'm going to go with DeGrom to answer your question there, Rarities. And Janet, yes, it does sound like we have a good one in Tiegs. He's a good man. He's a good guy. A little Jordan Tiegs story that I have. My son came to spring training. It was in 23, and Henry was just running around like a madman, getting balls and getting autographs and everything like that. And I was talking to Jordan one day, and Henry came over to us, and Jordan introduced himself, and he said to me the next day, "Hey, is your son still here?" I was like, "Yeah, he is." He goes, "All right, I'm going to try to get him on the field at some point during batting practice." And sure enough, the next day, Jordan's like, "All right, let's go, Henry, let's go." So Henry went out and shagged a little bit in the outfield, probably the throw of a lifetime for I think he was 10 at the time. He actually threw a ball, fielded a ball and threw it over to the bucket. And Jordan's like, "Man, you got a good arm." I don't know if Jordan was just being nice, but I like to think he has a good arm. So Castellanos, Janet, terrible fit. I agree with you. I just don't like it. I don't like it. It's like it would be like trading Adolis Garcia for Nick Castellanos. Nick hasn't. It's not like Nick has been hitting 330 the last couple of years. Otherwise, the Phillies wouldn't have released him. I hope Tato that the Brock Porter question satisfied you. It was a good answer. Rarities, how did Evan Carter look versus Garcia? Again, I didn't see the live BP. I apologize for that. But yeah, if you guys have anything, here's Steve. Has there been any new theory why Globe Life has become a pitcher's park? It was something that we talked about early on, Steve. I guess this is your super chat. Why it's happened, and the Rangers have said that through 5 seasons, there's been 5 seasons of baseball at Globe Life Field, and the numbers have been different all 5 years. I think the sample size is still very, very small. And my theory is, and the Rangers haven't said why they think that's the case. Why home runs don't sail out of there. Why with the roof open, it's still a little bit more friendly, but not great. My theory is that, especially from last year, the Rangers pitchers were so good, they pitched there 81 times. I think that the Rangers pitchers had an effect on park effects. Now, maybe there are scenarios where a guy absolutely hit one on the screws and it just died. I'm sure that they have much more data than I do, but it's something that's going to be talked about. has been talked about. But I'm no scientist, and I don't have access to their data. But something for sure to bring up, and I will try to get you a better answer eventually. Steve, good luck in your upcoming draft that we have here in a couple of weeks. So anyway, guys, that does it for the week here. Thanks for joining us this week. Update the schedule next Monday at 3 o'clock, Wednesday at 3 o'clock, Friday at 1 o'clock. That'll be an hour before the Cactus League opener. John Moore and I, we did a little weekly show yesterday to kind of recap the news. We hope to do that a couple times a week coming forward, kind of the same format we have here. Just trying to fill the gaps, baby, trying to fill the gaps. But until next week, keep looking for my stories over at alldls.com. Keep following me on the Twitter, trying to knock out some more videos. But yeah, we will see you Monday at 3 o'clock on the DLS Rangers podcast.